small seats you'd find crammed together in a commercial plane. There were beds attached parallel to the wall. I was carefully placed on one. The nurses did everything they could to make me comfortable. When I settled in, ready to go home, I finally felt warmth. Whether from the blankets or the compassion, it didn't matter. I was cared for throughout the entire flight, and then after a long time, one of the nurses leaned down to me and said, "We'll be landing soon, so you'll wake up in the hospital." He gave me a shot, and I was out. I woke up in a tiny hospital room. I didn't know where yet, but I saw the brightness of the fluorescent light streaming in from the hallway as the door opened slowly. I blinked as figures came into focus. I saw her first. Petite frame, curly white hair, and glasses. It was my mom. My mom and dad were in the room. I was somewhere safe. They were smiling, but I could see they were scared, and my immediate thought was, smile so they know you're okay. I learned later that because my family had missed out on their flights, they arrived after midnight and there was no one to prepare them for what they would see or tell them about the condition I was in. The next few days were a painful, terrifying blur. One minute I'd be sweating, the next freezing. I was either in pain or I was passed out. In the blink of an eye, I had gone from a fearless, strong soldier fighting a war to feeling like a helpless child. I had no idea how to react to where I was or what was happening to me. One minute I was angry, and the next I was overcome with emotion and crying. I cried a lot. I've never been so scared. Those first few days in Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. were more terrifying than anything I encountered in Iraq. Each time I was deployed, I had accepted that I could die. I prepared myself to die in Iraq. It never crossed my mind that I could wake up in a hospital bed severely injured. We had already lost some of the guys in my company. They weren't injured, they were killed. And we had all accepted that risk. It wasn't supposed to go this way. I wasn't supposed to be writhing in pain in a hospital room in Washington, D.C. I was supposed to be still in Iraq or dead. There was no in between. I didn't know how to handle in between. My fear was amplified each time I was taken out of the stifling small hospital room, because every time they came to get me, I was wheeled into another painful surgery. I was heavily medicated, but that only took the edge off the pain and added to my confusion. I still didn't really know what was going on or what had happened to me, and now I was in and out of consciousness, so I couldn't get a firm grasp on reality. At one point, on one of these trips to surgery, I remember grabbing my mom's arm. I clutched onto her and begged her, "Don't let them take me. Please don't let them take me again." When there was a lull in the trips to the operating room, my mom was the one who finally told me the extent of my injuries. My mom is a very sweet, unassuming person, but she's also very direct. There would be no sugarcoating here. She was working hard to be strong for me, and I remember her walking into the room normally, as if everything were fine, and standing by my bed as she rattled off my injuries in a very matter-of-fact fashion, as if she were listing the ingredients in a recipe. You lost your left arm above the elbow, your left leg above the knee. You have severe injuries to your right leg. Your right hand also sustained some injuries, and your jaw is wired shut. My mom was far better at masking her emotions than my dad was. He was standing behind her as she told me, but he never said a word. This was a lot for Dad to take in. He lost his arm at age 18 in an industrial accident. All I'd ever known was a dad with one arm. As I sat there stunned, processing all Mom had just told me, she filled the silence in the room with, "Look, this is what it is, and now let's figure out what's next." My next reaction was, who died? Because if I was that bad off, then how was everyone else? It wasn't until about a week later that I received a call from my platoon leader telling me that I took the worst of it. There were only 3 of us in the vehicle that night, and I was the most severely injured. So with the knowledge that everyone else was going to be okay, my attention turned to what I was going to do. I had always been a very physically active person, and I loved my job. I got into the military because of September 11th, but I stumbled into a career that I absolutely loved. I was meant to be an infantry soldier. I thought, I will never be physical again, and my career in the military is over. One tiny tripwire had taken everything away from me in one explosive moment. I sank into a very